In the depths of human relationships lies a truth we often overlook. The most devastating betrayals don't come from strangers lurking in shadows, but from those who stand beside us in the light. Today's story unravels a friendship corroded by jealousy, a bond twisted by obsession, and a betrayal so profound it challenges our understanding of trust itself. Welcome to True Crime Stories Archive, your gateway to the chilling world of real-life horror. Here, we delve into the darkest corners of humanity, unearthing terrifying stories of true crime that will leave you sleeping with the lights on. Before we begin this haunting tale, make sure to subscribe and join our community of dedicated true crime enthusiasts seeking to understand the complexities of human nature. As Sharon Carter's world blossomed with newfound happiness, and Hawkins' heart darkened with an ever-growing shadow of resentment, their lives had become inexplicably entangled in a web of deception so intricate that by the time the truth emerged, the damage inflicted would prove irreparable. 3 days before what should have been Sharon's perfect wedding, the person she trusted most was orchestrating her downfall with methodical precision. The betrayal that unfolded wasn't delivered by a stranger in the night, it came from the hands that had once braided her hair in childhood, the voice that had shared her deepest secrets, and the friend who had sworn eternal loyalty. As this story reveals, sometimes the most dangerous predators aren't those who hunt in darkness, but those who walk beside us in broad daylight, wearing the mask of friendship, while concealing a heart consumed by jealousy. Let us journey back to where it all began, to the foundation of a friendship that would ultimately crumble under the weight of one person's consuming envy. In a close-knit community where relationships were forged in elementary school playgrounds and strengthened through years of shared experiences, Sharon Carter and Ann Hawkins seemed destined to be lifelong friends. Sharon possessed a natural radiance that transformed every room she entered. Her personality sparkled with an authenticity that drew people into her orbit effortlessly. Whether remembering small details about others' lives or offering genuine support during difficult times, Sharon's warmth touched everyone she encountered. She moved through life with a grace that seemed effortless, though she never wore her successes like a crown, instead using them as opportunities to lift others. In contrast, Ann Hawkins existed in a different sphere altogether. Her presence was understated, her voice rarely rising above a whisper in group settings. She cultivated an image of the perfect supporting character in Sharon's story, the loyal friend who preferred to remain in the background. Yet beneath this carefully constructed facade of contentment, a darkness was taking root, feeding on every achievement, every smile, and every triumph that Sharon experienced. Their childhood bond had been woven with countless shared experiences, from trading sandwich halves at lunch to sharing whispered secrets during sleepovers. They navigated the turbulent waters of adolescence together, their friendship appearing unshakable to everyone who knew them. Sharon's magnetic personality drew others in, while Ann observed from the periphery, her quiet nature masking the gradual souring of her affection. As the years progressed, the differences between them became increasingly pronounced. Sharon's inherent ability to succeed manifested in every aspect of her life, from academic achievements to social connections. She tackled challenges with an optimism that seemed almost supernatural, transforming obstacles into stepping stones. When she entered a room, the atmosphere shifted, brightened by her presence. Her laughter, genuine and unreserved, had a way of making others feel included in her joy. Yet for Ann, each of Sharon's triumphs carved deeper grooves of discontent in her psyche. The day Sharon was crowned homecoming queen became etched in Ann's memory not as a celebration of her friend's happiness, but as another reminder of her own perceived inadequacies. While she stood in the crowd, applauding with the others, her smile never reached her eyes. Instead, a flicker of something darker, more insidious, passed across her features, a momentary crack in her carefully maintained facade of supportive friendship. During their college years, the disparity in their paths widened further. Sharon breezed through applications, securing spots at prestigious institutions, while Ann grappled with rejection letters. Even then, Sharon remained steadfast in her support, offering encouragement and assistance, completely unaware that her kindness was being interpreted as condescension by her increasingly bitter friend. The true depth of Ann's growing resentment remained carefully hidden, masked behind a veneer of quiet loyalty. She played her part perfectly, the supportive best friend, the confidant, the shoulder to cry on. Yet beneath this performance, every act of kindness from Sharon felt like a personal slight, every success a direct attack on Anne's self-worth. The very qualities that made Sharon beloved, her generosity, her genuine concern for others, her natural ability to succeed, became fuel for Anne's festering resentment. Life's challenges struck both women differently. When Anne faced personal hardships, her father's abandonment, her mother's subsequent struggles, her first heartbreak, Sharon's unwavering support never faltered. She appeared at Anne's doorstep with home-cooked meals, stayed up through countless nights offering comfort, and remained a constant pillar of strength. These acts of friendship, rather than fostering gratitude, only deepened Anne's sense of inadequacy and dependence. The years marched forward, and with each passing season, the invisible fissures in their friendship deepened. Anne's resentment grew like a shadow at sunset, stretching longer and darker with each of Sharon's accomplishments. While Sharon continued to shine, completely unaware of the darkness brewing within her best friend, Anne's inner world became increasingly consumed by comparison and bitter contemplation. Then came a pivotal moment in Anne's life that would further twist the knife of her discontent. Her pregnancy announcement should have been a moment of joy, or at least hope for a new beginning. Instead, it became another chapter in her narrative of perceived unfairness when the father vanished, leaving her to face the challenges of impending motherhood alone. True to form, Sharon stepped forward without hesitation, transforming herself into an unwavering support system. Sharon's assistance during this period was comprehensive and constant. She accompanied Anne to medical appointments, provided financial support when bills became overwhelming, and spent countless sleepless nights on the phone, offering comfort when loneliness threatened to consume her friend. She performed these acts of kindness with characteristic grace, never seeking recognition or repayment. Yet each gesture, rather than inspiring gratitude, only served to deepen Anne's sense of inadequacy and dependence. The disparity between their lives became even more pronounced during this period. While Anne grappled with the challenges of single motherhood and financial strain, Sharon's life appeared to continue its upward trajectory, unmarred by significant hardships. This contrast fed the growing monster of resentment within Anne's heart, transforming what should have been appreciation into a poisonous cocktail of envy and hatred. Then came the event that would act as a catalyst for the darkness lurking in Anne's heart: the arrival of Jayan Brooks. His entrance into their lives occurred at a charity event, one of those seemingly insignificant moments that later proved to be turning points in life's grand narrative. Sharon, attending the event with colleagues, almost skipped it but decided to go at the last minute, a decision that would set in motion a chain of events no one could have predicted. Jayan Brooks stood out in any crowd, not just for his physical presence but for the quiet confidence he exuded. As a representative of one of the sponsoring organizations, he carried himself with a natural authority that drew attention without seeking it. When he and Sharon were introduced through mutual acquaintances, the connection was immediate and electric. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, hours passing like minutes as they discovered shared values, similar life perspectives, and complementary senses of humor. The development of Sharon and Jayan's relationship was swift but not rushed, natural but not careless. Each interaction revealed new layers of compatibility, every shared moment strengthening their bond. Jayan's devotion to family values, his professional success, and his genuine nature made him seem like the perfect match for Sharon. He wasn't just another boyfriend. He represented everything Sharon had hoped to find in a life partner. Sharon's enthusiasm to introduce Jayan to her inner circle, particularly Anne, was palpable. The initial meeting was arranged at Sharon's apartment, designed to be casual and comfortable. For Sharon, this introduction represented the merging of two vital parts of her life: her oldest friend and the man who had captured her heart. However, this meeting would prove to be far more significant than she could have imagined. Anne's first glimpse of Jayan sparked something unprecedented within her. He wasn't just attractive in a conventional sense, his presence commanded attention, his charisma filling the room with an energy that was almost tangible. As she watched him interact with Sharon, noting his quiet confidence, his genuine warmth, and the way his success seemed to match perfectly with Sharon's achievements, a new form of desire began to take root in her heart. throughout the evening, and maintained her practice role of the supportive best friend. She asked appropriate questions, laughed at the right moments, and appeared genuinely interested in their love story. Yet beneath this carefully constructed facade, her mind was racing with thoughts that grew increasingly darker. The way Jayan looked at Sharon, the natural flow of their interaction, the obvious depth of their connection, each observation felt like a personal assault on Anne's psyche. The subsequent months brought no relief to Anne's growing obsession. Sharon's relationship with Jayan flourished, their bond deepening with each passing day. Sharon would share stories of their dates, of Jayan's thoughtful gestures, of the way he seemed to anticipate her needs before she could voice them. Each revelation was like salt in Anne's wounds, exacerbating her sense of deprivation and feeding her mounting resentment. Anne's jealousy evolved into something more sinister, transforming from passive envy into active malice. She began monitoring Jayan's social media presence, studying his online activities with an intensity that bordered on stalking. What started as casual observation soon escalated into calculated action as she began sending him messages, testing the waters with seemingly innocent conversations. Her approach was methodical, carefully crafted to appear natural while serving her ulterior motives. She began planting subtle seeds of doubt about Sharon's character, presenting herself as someone who truly understood Jayan's worth. Each message was composed with careful consideration, designed to create a wedge between Sharon and the man Anne had convinced herself she deserved. However, Jayan proved more discerning than Anne had anticipated. Though he maintained politeness in his responses, he recognized something unsettling in Anne's increasing attempts to connect with him. The frequency and nature of her messages raised red flags, yet he found himself in a difficult position. This was Sharon's childhood best friend, the woman she spoke of with such warmth and trust. The thought of causing friction in their friendship by revealing Anne's inappropriate behavior gave him pause. As Anne's efforts to capture Jayan's attention failed repeatedly, her frustration mounted. Each polite rebuff, each unanswered message, each sign of his unwavering devotion to Sharon only served to fuel her growing obsession. The situation reached a breaking point when Jayan proposed to Sharon, making their commitment official and public. The news of Sharon and Jayan's engagement hit, and with the force of a physical blow. Sharon, bubbling with excitement, had called her immediately after accepting Jayan's proposal. The intimate dinner, the heartfelt words of love and commitment, the perfect ring. Sharon shared every detail with the woman she still considered her closest confidant, and performed her role flawlessly during that call, her voice conveying all the appropriate enthusiasm while her mind descended into darker territories. For Anne, the engagement wasn't just an announcement of Sharon's happiness, it represented the final confirmation that Jayan was beyond her reach. The ring on Sharon's finger became a symbol of everything Anne believed she had been denied in life. Her congratulatory words tasted like ash in her mouth, each forced expression of joy feeding a growing darkness within her soul. The failure of her subtle manipulation tactics with Jayan, combined with the reality of his permanent commitment to Sharon, pushed Anne past a critical threshold. Her bitterness, which had been simmering for years, boiled over into something more dangerous, an obsession that demanded action. She could no longer content herself with quiet resentment, or failed attempts at undermining their relationship. The time for subtle manipulation had passed. 3 days before Sharon's wedding, Anne's twisted plan began to take shape. She suggested a night out, one final celebration of Sharon's single life. Her proposition seemed innocent enough, wrapped in the guise of friendship and tradition. A last hurrah, she called it, one more adventure before Sharon entered married life. Sharon, ever trusting and touched by what she perceived as her friend's thoughtfulness, agreed despite her usual reservations about nightclub scenes. The venue Anne selected was calculated for maximum effect, a crowded, pulsating nightclub where the chaos would serve her purposes perfectly. The thundering music, the strobing lights, the press of bodies on the dance floor, everything was designed to disorient and overwhelm. Anne had chosen this environment knowing it would make Sharon more vulnerable, more dependent on her guidance. As the night unfolded, Anne executed her plan with chilling precision. She encouraged Sharon to drink, maintaining a steady flow of alcohol while barely touching her own glasses. With each round, she offered toast after toast, playing on Sharon's emotions and their shared history. The music grew louder, the lights more dizzying, and Sharon's resistance weakened with every carefully orchestrated moment. And watched as Sharon's usual self-control gradually eroded. She observed with clinical detachment as her friend's movements became less coordinated, her speech increasingly slurred. While appearing to be the caring friend ensuring everyone had a good time, and was meticulously documenting Sharon's declining state, waiting for the perfect moment to implement the next phase of her scheme. The contrast between the two women grew starker as the hours passed. While Sharon became increasingly vulnerable, and remained sharp and focused, her sobriety masked behind pretend sips and strategic bathroom breaks where she disposed of full drinks. She maintained her facade of the concerned best friend, all while ensuring Sharon's intoxication reached the level she required for her plan to succeed. As the night progressed, Sharon's vulnerability reached the critical point and had been waiting for. The club's chaotic atmosphere had served its purpose perfectly, leaving Sharon disoriented and completely dependent on Anne's guidance. When Anne suggested it was time to leave, Sharon could barely stand straight, clinging to her friend for support as they made their way toward the exit. What appeared to onlookers as one friend helping another home was, in reality, the execution of a meticulously crafted plan. Anne's arm around Sharon's waist, her soothing words of reassurance all part of an elaborate performance masking her true intentions. The security cameras would later reveal this moment, and, steady and purposeful, leading an obviously incapacitated Sharon away from the safety of public view. Hours before they had even stepped foot in the club, and had already set the stage for what would follow. She had made arrangements with hired assailants, providing explicit instructions for an attack that would destroy not just Sharon's wedding day, but her entire life. The precision of her planning revealed the true depths of her malice. This wasn't a crime of passion but a calculated act of revenge years in the making. Once inside Sharon's apartment, Anne's mask of friendship fell away completely. With clinical detachment, she positioned her incapacitated friend, ensuring everything was perfectly arranged for what was to come. The men she had hired arrived exactly as planned, their presence marking the beginning of an unspeakable violation. But Anne's cruelty didn't stop at orchestrating the physical assault. She took out her phone and began recording, carefully framing the footage to create a narrative that would serve her vengeful purposes. The video she captured was deliberately shot to suggest something entirely different from the horrific reality unfolding. Through careful angle selection and strategic editing, and crafted footage that would appear to show Sharon willingly engaging in infidelity. Each frame was composed with the singular purpose of destroying Sharon's relationship with Jayan, transforming a violent assault into what would appear to be a betrayal of trust. As Sharon lay helpless, completely unaware of the magnitude of betrayal being perpetrated against her, and stood in the shadows, her phone steady in her hands, recording every moment with a detachment that spoke volumes about the darkness that had consumed her. The woman who had once been Sharon's closest confidant, who had shared childhood secrets and teenage dreams, was now orchestrating her complete destruction. The contrast between Anne's methodical execution of her plan and Sharon's vulnerable state created a scene of particular horror. The trust that Sharon had placed in her friend, believing she was being cared for and protected, made the betrayal all the more devastating. Anne's calculated actions ensuring Sharon's intoxication, isolating her from potential help, and documenting the assault demonstrated a level of premeditation that would later shock investigators. The morning after brought a cruel awakening for Sharon. Consciousness returned slowly, accompanied by a devastating physical pain and a mental fog that made piecing together the events of the previous night nearly impossible. Her body bore the evidence of violence, bruises marking her skin, every movement causing waves of agony. In her confused state, she called out for Anne, still believing in the friendship that had already been shattered beyond repair. Anne's response to Sharon's desperate calls came with a chilling composure that would later haunt everyone who learned of this case. She maintained an air of ignorance, crafting a story about separate taxi rides home, her voice steady as she delivered carefully rehearsed lies to her traumatized friend. The contrast between her calculated calm and Sharon's obvious distress was stark, a detail that would later become crucial evidence of premeditation. While Sharon struggled to make sense of her fragmented memories and physical pain, Anne's plan was already in motion. The video she had recorded, carefully edited to present a false narrative, was making its way to Jayan Brooks. Her timing was deliberate, chosen to inflict maximum damage to Sharon's relationship and emotional well-being. The impact of the video on Jayan was immediate and devastating. His first viewing of what appeared to be evidence of Sharon's infidelity sent him reeling. The carefully crafted footage, showing what seemed to be willing participation but was in reality a brutal assault, achieved exactly what Anne had intended. It shattered his trust in Sharon. Jayan's initial reaction was one of raw anger and betrayal. He contacted Sharon immediately, his voice carrying an edge of fury she had never heard before. The shock in Sharon's voice when he mentioned the video, her genuine confusion and distress, gave him pause. Something about her reaction didn't align with the narrative the video presented. When Jayan arrived at Sharon's apartment, ready to confront what he believed was betrayal, he found something entirely different. The sight of Sharon's physical condition, the visible bruises, her obvious pain, the way she winced with every movement created a cognitive dissonance that forced him to question everything he thought he knew. The woman before him, clearly traumatized and injured, didn't match the narrative the video had presented. It was Sharon's plea to be taken to the hospital that marked the turning point. Her request, made through tears and obvious physical discomfort, shifted Jayan's perspective completely. His anger transformed into concern, and for the first time, he began to suspect that something far more sinister than infidelity had occurred. At the hospital, the truth began to emerge with brutal clarity. Medical examinations revealed the extent of Sharon's injuries, painting a picture not of a consensual encounter, but of a violent assault. The evidence was clear and undeniable. Sharon had been raped while in a vulnerable state, completely incapable of consent. As the medical evidence mounted, Jayan Brooks found himself grappling with waves of guilt over his initial reaction. The video that had sparked his anger now appeared sinister in an entirely different way. His trained eye began to notice details he had missed in his first viewing: the careful angles, the selective framing, the deliberate manipulation of perspective. What had initially seemed like proof of betrayal now revealed itself as evidence of something far more malevolent. The investigation began to gather momentum as Jayan filed a police report. Law enforcement officials quickly identified disturbing patterns that pointed to premeditation. The surveillance footage from the nightclub told a story vastly different from Anne's version of events. Instead of separate taxis, cameras clearly showed Anne guiding and severely intoxicated Sharon into her apartment, a direct contradiction to her carefully constructed alibi. Detectives working the case uncovered layer after layer of Anne's elaborate scheme. Their investigation revealed a trail of evidence that pointed to careful planning and cold-blooded execution. The discovery of incriminating text messages between Anne and the hired assailants painted a picture of methodical organization. Financial records showed payments made to these individuals, creating an undeniable paper trail that connected Anne directly to the crime. The most damning evidence was found on Anne's own phone. She had failed to delete the original, unedited footage of the assault. This raw video footage showed the true horror of what had transpired that night, providing irrefutable proof of both the assault and Anne's role in orchestrating it. The clinical way she had documented her friend's violations spoke to a level of malice that shocked even veteran investigators. As the investigation progressed, Anne's carefully maintained facade began to crack under the weight of mounting evidence. When brought in for questioning, her initial composure, the same calm demeanor she had displayed while lying to Sharon, began to deteriorate. The detective's methodical presentation of evidence, the surveillance footage, the text messages, the financial transactions, and finally, the unedited video from her phone systematically dismantled her pretense of innocence. In the interrogation room, the years of festering jealousy and calculated manipulation began to surface. The depths of Anne's obsession with destroying Sharon's happiness became apparent as she faced the undeniable proof of her crimes. Her responses to questioning revealed not just the mechanics of her plot, but the years of resentment that had driven her to such extremes. The prosecution built an airtight case against Anne Hawkins. The evidence was overwhelming: the premeditated nature of the assault, the careful manipulation of circumstances to isolate and violate Sharon, the calculated attempt to destroy her relationship with Jayan, and the cold-blooded recording of the crime. Each piece of evidence revealed a new layer of betrayal, showing how Anne had weaponized her intimate knowledge of Sharon's life and trust against her. The courtroom atmosphere was charged with tension as the trial began. The prosecution methodically presented their case, painting a comprehensive picture of Anne's calculated betrayal. Medical reports detailed the extent of Sharon's injuries, while surveillance footage and phone records created an undeniable timeline of premeditated malice. The unedited video from Anne's phone, perhaps the most disturbing piece of evidence, left no room for doubt about the true nature of what had transpired that night. Sharon's testimony proved to be one of the most powerful moments of the trial. Her voice, though trembling with emotion, carried the weight of years of misplaced trust and devastating betrayal. She recounted their shared history, the childhood memories, the years of perceived friendship, and the complete shock of discovering that the person she had considered a sister had orchestrated her violation. Her words resonated through the courtroom, bringing the full impact of Anne's betrayal into sharp focus. Jayan Brooks's testimony added another layer to the prosecution's case. He described how the manipulated video had initially shaken his trust, only to lead to the discovery of a far more heinous truth. His account of finding Sharon injured and traumatized, and the subsequent revelation of Anne's elaborate scheme, helped establish the calculated nature of the crime. His testimony highlighted not just the physical assault, but the psychological warfare Anne had attempted to wage against their relationship. Throughout the trial, Anne maintained an unsettling composure, her face a mask of indifference as witness after witness detailed her crimes. The contrast between her cold demeanor and the emotional impact of the testimony served only to underscore the prosecution's portrayal of her as a calculating predator who had used years of intimate friendship as a weapon. The evidence continued to mount as investigators presented their findings. The financial trail revealed careful planning, payments to the hired assailants, the strategic choice of venue, even the timing of the attack in relation to Sharon's wedding. Text messages and email exchanges showed how Anne had orchestrated every detail, from ensuring Sharon would be vulnerable to positioning her for the assault and subsequent recording. What emerged was a pattern of behavior that extended far beyond a single night of violence. The prosecution demonstrated how Anne's resentment had festered over years, how her jealousy had transformed into something much darker. They showed how she had maintained a facade of friendship, while methodically planning her friend's destruction, using every piece of intimate knowledge gained through years of friendship to maximize the impact of her betrayal. The defense's attempts to mitigate Anne's actions fell flat in the face of such overwhelming evidence. Their arguments about emotional distress and temporary insanity crumbled under the weight of proof showing long-term premeditation and calculated execution. The methodical nature of Anne's planning, documented through electronic records and physical evidence, made it impossible to argue that this was anything other than a carefully orchestrated crime. When the jury returned with their verdict, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Anne Hawkins was found guilty on all counts. The evidence of premeditation, the brutality of the assault she had orchestrated, and her calculated attempt to destroy Sharon's relationship and reputation left no room for leniency. The judge's words were stern and unequivocal as he delivered the sentence: 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence reflected not just the physical violence of the crime, but the psychological torture Anne had inflicted on someone who had trusted her completely. The judge emphasized how Anne had weaponized years of friendship, using intimate knowledge to maximize the impact of her betrayal. Her actions, he noted, demonstrated a level of calculated malice that demanded the maximum penalty allowed by law. For Sharon Carter, the verdict brought a complex mix of emotions. While justice had been served in the legal sense, the psychological wounds inflicted by Anne's betrayal ran deep. The violation wasn't just physical, it was an assault on every memory, every shared moment, every foundation of trust she had built over decades of friendship. The realization that someone she had loved like a sister had methodically planned her destruction challenged her ability to trust on a fundamental level. The aftermath of the trial presented Sharon with the daunting task of rebuilding her life. The process of healing would prove to be either quick nor linear. Each recovered memory of their friendship now carried the taint of Anne's underlying resentment. Moments she had treasured as genuine expressions of sisterly love were now questioned, examined for signs of the hatred that had been lurking beneath the surface. Throughout this challenging period of recovery, J.N. Brooks proved to be an unwavering source of support. His initial doubt, sparked by Anne's manipulated video, had transformed into an even deeper commitment to Sharon. He stood beside her through the nightmares, the panic attacks, and the long process of psychological healing. Their bond, tested by Anne's attempt to destroy it, emerged stronger, forged in the crucible of shared trauma and recovery. Their wedding, postponed by a month to allow Sharon time to recover and to ensure Anne's punishment was secured, became a symbol of resilience. The celebration was more than a union of two people. It represented a triumph over the darkness that had threatened to consume Sharon's capacity for joy and trust. The date change itself stood as a testament to their determination not to let Anne's actions define their future. The impact of this case reached far beyond the immediate participants. It sparked discussions about the nature of friendship, trust, and the invisible wounds that jealousy can inflict. Mental health professionals used it as a case study in how unaddressed resentment can metastasize into something monstrous, while law enforcement cited it as an example of how technology could be used as a weapon in intimate betrayals. The ripple effects of this case extended into every corner of the community that had watched Sharon and Anne grow up together. Longtime neighbors who had witnessed their childhood friendship struggled to reconcile the end they thought they knew with the calculated predator revealed in court. Their story became a cautionary tale about the masks people wear and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly perfect friendships. For Sharon, the process of healing demanded a complete reevaluation of her past. Every shared memory, every late-night conversation, every moment of perceived support had to be examined through the lens of Anne's revealed hatred. The realization that Anne had been nursing her resentment through every milestone, celebrations, achievements, moments of joy cast a shadow over decades of Sharon's life experiences. The psychological impact manifested in unexpected ways. Sharon found herself questioning her own judgment, wondering how she could have missed the signs of Anne's growing darkness. The natural warmth and trust that had once defined her personality became tempered with a new caution. The experience hadn't destroyed her capacity for friendship, but it had fundamentally altered how she approached relationships. J.N.'s role in Sharon's recovery proved transformative. His initial reaction to Anne's manipulated video, the anger that had quickly given way to concern and support, demonstrated an emotional intelligence that would become crucial in helping Sharon rebuild her sense of security. He became not just a husband but a partner in healing, understanding that recovery would be a long-term journey rather than a destination. The wedding, when it finally took place, carried deeper significance than anyone could have anticipated. The one-month postponement wasn't just about physical recovery. It represented Sharon's determination to reclaim her life narrative. The celebration became a symbol of resilience, a declaration that trust and love could survive even the most profound betrayal. Friends and family who attended spoke of the palpable emotion in the air, not just joy for the couple, but a collective relief at seeing Sharon embrace happiness again. In prison, Anne Hawkins faced the consequences of her actions in isolation. The woman who had spent years hiding in Sharon's shadow now found herself confined to a much smaller, more literal shadow. Reports from prison staff described her as withdrawn, showing no signs of remorse for her actions. The carefully constructed facade she had maintained for years had crumbled, revealing the true extent of her emotional deterioration. The investigation continued to yield disturbing insights even after the trial. Digital forensics experts uncovered evidence that Anne's planning had begun long before the assault. Her devices contained years of notes, observations, and calculations, a digital diary of festering resentment that had evolved into murderous intent. The level of detail in her planning shocked even seasoned investigators, revealing how thoroughly she had mapped out every aspect of Sharon's life in preparation for her attack. The case became a landmark study in criminal psychology. Mental health professionals analyzed Anne's descent from quiet resentment to calculated violence, noting how her years of suppressed jealousy had metastasized into something far more sinister. Her ability to maintain a convincing facade of friendship, while harboring such deep-seated hatred, became a topic of discussion in criminology courses and psychological seminars. The investigation revealed that Anne's premeditation extended beyond the immediate assault. Her devices contained detailed information about Sharon's daily routines, preferences, and vulnerabilities, information gathered through years of close friendship, now revealed to have been collected with malicious intent. She had studied Sharon's alcohol tolerance, knowing exactly how much would be needed to render her helpless. The nightclub hadn't been chosen at random, and had scouted multiple venues, selecting one where the lighting and crowd would make it difficult for others to notice Sharon's deteriorating condition. Financial records painted an even darker picture of Anne's planning. Investigators discovered that she had been setting aside money for months, creating a fund specifically for hiring the assailants. The payments had been carefully structured to avoid detection, revealing a level of forethought that strengthened the prosecution's case for premeditation. She had even researched ways to manipulate video footage, preparing for the creation of the false narrative she would present to Jayan. The relationship between Sharon and Jayan emerged stronger through this ordeal, though the path wasn't easy. The initial shock of the manipulated video had created a moment of doubt that both had to work through. Jayan carried his own guilt for initially believing the worst, while Sharon had to overcome the fear that future misunderstandings could threaten their bond. Their journey became one of mutual healing, each helping the other process the trauma of Anne's betrayal. Sharon's recovery process revealed both her vulnerability and her strength. While the physical bruises healed, the psychological impact required long-term professional help. She experienced panic attacks, trust issues, and periods of deep depression. However, she also discovered reserves of resilience she hadn't known she possessed. With Jayan's support and professional guidance, she gradually began to rebuild her sense of security and self-worth. The wedding celebration, delayed but not denied, became a powerful symbol of their triumph over adversity. The ceremony was more intimate than originally planned, attended by carefully chosen friends and family who had proved their loyalty during the crisis. The traditional elements of a wedding took on new meaning, the vows of trust and protection carrying extra weight given what they had endured. The community's reaction to the case evolved over time. Initial shock and disbelief gave way to deeper discussions about the nature of friendship and the masks people wear. Longtime acquaintances of both women came forward with previously unshared observations, subtle signs of Anne's jealousy that had been dismissed or overlooked. Teachers remembered moments from their school days where Anne's reaction to Sharon's successes had seemed slightly off, though no one had recognized these as warning signs at the time. In the prison system, Anne's behavior became a subject of observation. Unlike many inmates who showed signs of remorse or attempted to justify their actions, she maintained an unsettling detachment. Prison psychologists noted her continued fixation on Sharon, though now it manifested as a bitter satisfaction in having permanently marked her former friend's life. Her lack of remorse and inability to acknowledge the magnitude of her betrayal suggested a depth of psychological disturbance that went beyond simple jealousy. The case also sparked important conversations about personal safety and trust. Women's groups and safety advocates used it to highlight how predators often hide in plain sight, sometimes behind the mask of close friendship. The fact that Anne had used her intimate knowledge of Sharon's life to orchestrate the attack became a powerful warning about the importance of maintaining boundaries, even in close relationships. The digital evidence recovered from Anne's devices revealed years of obsessive behavior. She had created elaborate spreadsheets tracking Sharon's achievements, relationships, and moments of happiness. Each entry was annotated with bitter comments, revealing how she had transformed every positive event in Sharon's life into fuel for her growing resentment. This digital trail became a disturbing timeline of how benign envy can evolve into murderous intent when left to fester. For Sharon and Jayan, moving forward meant creating new traditions and memories to replace those tainted by Anne's betrayal. They focused on building their life together, consciously working to prevent Anne's actions from casting a permanent shadow over their happiness. Their wedding photos, taken a month later than planned, showed not just a celebration of their love, but a testament to their resilience. Sharon's healing process became a journey of rediscovery. While the trauma had changed her, she refused to let it define her. She maintained her natural warmth and kindness, though now tempered with wisdom born of experience. Her ability to find joy again, to trust again, became an inspiration to others who had experienced betrayal, showing that while trust once broken might never be the same, it could be rebuilt into something new and stronger. The legal aftermath of the case continued to resonate through the justice system. Prosecutors used it as a benchmark in cases involving premeditated assault and betrayal of trust. The detailed documentation of Anne's planning, from the financial transactions to the digital trail of her obsession, set new standards for establishing premeditation in similar cases. The judge's severe sentencing became a reference point for cases involving betrayal by trusted individuals. The medical staff who had treated Sharon immediately after the assault provided crucial testimony that highlighted the physical and psychological trauma of betrayal. Their documentation of her injuries, combined with their observations of her emotional state, painted a vivid picture of the devastating impact of Anne's actions. The hospital records became important teaching materials for medical professionals learning to recognize and treat victims of assault by trusted individuals. Within the prison system, Anne's case file grew thicker with psychological evaluations. Her continued lack of remorse and persistent fixation on Sharon concerned mental health professionals. Unlike many inmates who showed signs of rehabilitation or at least recognition of their crimes, Anne remained trapped in her narrative of justified vengeance. Her conversations with prison psychiatrists revealed a mind still consumed by the same toxic jealousy that had driven her to orchestrate the assault. The impact on the local community continued to evolve. People who had known both women since childhood struggled with their own guilt, questioning whether they could have prevented the tragedy by recognizing and addressing Anne's growing resentment earlier. Former teachers, neighbors, and mutual friends came forward with stories that, in hindsight, showed signs of Anne's deteriorating mental state and increasing obsession with Sharon's life. Sharon and Jane's relationship continued to strengthen, though the path wasn't always smooth. There were nights when memories of the betrayal would surface, triggering Sharon's anxiety. Jane learned to recognize the signs of these episodes, developing strategies to help Sharon through her darker moments. Their bond grew stronger through these challenges, each difficulty overcome adding another layer to their foundation of trust and understanding. The digital forensics team's final report revealed the true extent of Anne's obsession. Years of stalking behavior had been meticulously documented on her devices, photographs taken without Sharon's knowledge, recordings of conversations, detailed notes about Sharon's daily routines. The level of surveillance she had maintained while presenting herself as a caring friend sent chills through the investigative team. The investigation also uncovered a series of journals Anne had kept, dating back to their high school years. These writings provided a disturbing chronology of how her envy had evolved into murderous hatred. Early entries showed typical teenage insecurities, but as the years progressed, the tone darkened significantly. What began as simple jealousy of Sharon's natural charisma and success had twisted into elaborate fantasies of revenge and destruction. The most chilling aspect of these journals was how Anne had documented her growing obsession with J.N. Brooks. Pages were filled with detailed observations of his interactions with Sharon, accompanied by increasingly delusional writings about how he would have been better suited with her. The entries revealed how she had convinced herself that Sharon had somehow stolen the life that should have been hers, using this warped perspective to justify her actions. As Sharon continued her healing journey, she made the brave decision to speak at victim support groups, sharing her experience to help others who had suffered betrayal and assault. Her story resonated particularly with those who had been victimized by people they trusted. While reliving these experiences was painful, Sharon found purpose in helping others understand that survival and recovery were possible, even after the deepest betrayals. J.N.'s role in Sharon's recovery became a topic of study for relationship counselors and trauma specialists. His ability to balance support with allowing Sharon space to process her trauma provided a model for partners of assault survivors. The couple's willingness to share their journey helped other relationships navigate the aftermath of similar traumas. The wedding footage, when finally shared with close family and friends, captured a celebration that went beyond typical marital joy. Each moment from the exchange of vows to the first dance represented a victory over the darkness, and had tried to impose on their lives. The obvious love between Sharon and Jayan, witnessed by their closest supporters, stood as testament to the power of genuine connection over manufactured malice. Prison records documented Anne's continued descent into obsession. Despite being physically separated from Sharon, she maintained her fixation. Her cell was found to contain hidden writings, new journals continuing her disturbing narrative, showing no recognition of the harm she had caused. Counselors noted her tendency to rewrite history, casting herself as the victim while showing no comprehension of the magnitude of her crimes. The societal impact of this case rippled outward, touching various aspects of law enforcement, mental health treatment, and public awareness. Police departments began incorporating lessons from this case into their training protocols, particularly in handling situations involving betrayal by trusted individuals. The detailed evidence trail Anne left behind became a textbook example of how digital forensics could reveal years of premeditation beneath a facade of friendship. Mental health professionals used the case to illustrate how unaddressed jealousy and resentment could evolve into dangerous obsession. The progression documented in Anne's journals from typical envy to murderous intent served as a warning sign for identifying potentially dangerous behavioral patterns. Counselors and therapists began paying closer attention to signs of unhealthy attachment and obsession in seemingly normal friendships. The case left an indelible mark on everyone involved. Sharon and Jayan went on to build their life together, their bonds strengthened by the trauma they had overcome. While the scars of betrayal would never completely fade, they refused to let Anne's actions define their future. Their story became one of resilience, demonstrating how love and trust could survive even the most devastating betrayal. Anne Hawkins remained imprisoned, her 25-year sentence a constant reminder of how jealousy and obsession had consumed her life. Her case became a cautionary tale about the destructive power of unchecked resentment and the devastating consequences of allowing envy to fester into hatred. This story serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers lie not in the shadows cast by strangers, but in the familiar smiles of those we trust most. It teaches us to pay attention to the subtle signs people show us, to recognize when friendship masks darker intentions, and to understand that true friendship cannot coexist with consuming jealousy. Thank you for joining us for another episode of True Crime Stories Archive. Remember to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay vigilant and remember, not all monsters hide in darkness.